Good morning, ladies. This is Miss Kilby with COS 1050 Hair Coloring. So today we're going to be doing a lecture, our last lecture that we have in this class. It will be from pages 704 to 709. So we're going to talk about some rules for effective hair coloring and some guidelines that you need to take. So the very first thing you want to do is you don't want to panic. You need to find out what the problem is and what caused the problem, and then you can determine what the solution is. You're going to take one step at a time. Never guarantee any kind of results, and always strain test the hair, because if they've done something to the hair and you're trying to correct it, number one, you got to find out exactly what they've put on the hair, because you need to know exactly what you're dealing with. Because once the hair gets too damaged, then it kind of goes of a dark gray, kind of like a gunmetal color is what it'll be. And if it gets to that point, then it is seriously damaged. So you got to be very careful to find out exactly what they've done to the hair. You want to ask them what they've done in the last year, because a lot of times people will do it themselves. They go to the salon and have it done, and people get bored and they go to Sally's Beauty Supply and they'll ask them what they should put on their hair. And those ladies in there are not hairstylists, so they're only telling what the products that they've known about, but they don't have the knowledge to know exactly how far you have to lift the hair. I'm not saying everybody in there don't, but a lot of them don't, because we've done a lot of corrective hair color for clients that's come in and went to Sally's and done their own hair because they've done what the ladies have told them to there. So you got to be careful and find out exactly what they have done to the hair. And you can't ever really guarantee any kind of results, because if you do that, you're just setting yourself up for failure. Because the client, it doesn't matter how many times they've bleached the hair and then they put something else on it, or their girlfriends put something on it. If their hair is damaged, when you get done with it, you've done everything. So you've created all the damage in their mind. You have created everything. You've damaged their hair. So they are going to tell everybody that you damaged their hair. But they won't tell what they've done to their hair. So you got to be very, very careful with that. And always make sure that you do elasticity test on the hair. So the hair is supposed to stretch like a rubber band. So when you stretch a rubber band, it goes back. So you got to check the elasticity of the hair. If they don't have any elasticity, then you need to do some treatments on the hair to get it back into better shape, a good, better condition. So you can do that. And there's several different things you can do. You can do a liquid protein is really good for that type of hair. It comes in sprays, and they got all kinds now, and you can cocktail those mixtures with some really deep penetrating conditioners and do mask on their hair and get it into better condition. So normally what you would want to do is you would want to recommend, if you've tested their hair and the elasticity is bad, you want to recommend conditioning treatments for them. Because the hair is already to a point where it's damaged, and if the hair is turning grayish colors whenever you put the hair on it, it's already far over the point, really. They really need to get a haircut. But, in order to help them get their hair into better shape, then you can offer conditioning treatments to them. A good one that we use a lot is liquid protein, and we put that product on dry hair. So we'll spray it on dry hair and then put a bag on their head and then stick them up under the dryer for 10 or 15 minutes, depending on what you want to do. And so that product dries really hard in the hair. So whenever you do that service, you have to take them to the shampoo bowl and rinse that out. You can't comb it out because the hair will break. And just like anything, a lot of people think, well, the hair's made of protein, so it's good for the hair. And so they'll think if a little bit's good, then more is better. And in actuality, and when you're using liquid protein, you can use too much, and you can go damage the hair worse, because the hair will start breaking if it has too much in it. So you want to be very careful of that. So now we're going to talk about some different tips for damaged hair. Okay, so you want to use, you can do conditioning treatments on them. So you want to use a good penetrating conditioner with proteins, oils, and moisturizers in it. Something that's got some rich ingredients in the hair. So you need more than just a conditioner, just a regular basic conditioner or a detangler. Because a lot of people, when you color their hair or when they do their own color, the shampoos they use a lot of times are not putting the moisture back in there. So every time you do any kind of chemical service on the hair, it dries the hair out. So it's going to take all the moisture out of the hair. And you have to put that back in there in order for the hair to be healthy. So you can use some good penetrating conditioners. You can cocktail that with some protein and do some mask on their hair or do some deep conditionings on their hair, which will definitely help. You also can use acid rinse after all the chemical services that you do. And what that's going to do is going to normalize the pH of the hair and bring it back to its natural state. Also, you want to recommend that they do no chemical services whatsoever until you get the hair back in good shape. So I had this lady that come in, and I probably told y'all this story, but she wanted she colors her hair on a regular basis, and she does her own color. But she had been getting her hair straightened from one of her girlfriends, and she's from Brazil. So whenever she would go home to Brazil, she would bring different products and do her hair. Well, her hair was very long down to her waist and very thick. Well, by the time that she'd done all these different types of relaxers on her hair, and she was coloring her hair too, which she used a level 1, which we know was black on her hair too. So it really over-processed her hair over a period of time, and her hair started falling out. So it's very, very fine now. And she come in and wanted me to do a straightening service on her hair, and I wouldn't do it. You know, I had for 2 months, we did conditioning treatments on her hair before we got it back into enough shape that we could do it. And her hair is very, very coarse and very curly at the scalp. So of course she was really having to fight with it, which is even worse for somebody that's got that type of hair, because all they're doing is really tugging and pulling and putting a lot of pressure on their hair and making it worse. So always recommend that they just postpone any kind of chemical services until you feel like the hair is in good shape. And so you're going to do a test on it after the period of time that you have done your treatments on them. Then you'll want to do elasticity test and a porosity test. And we know how to do the elasticity test, right? It stretches like a rubber band. It's supposed to stretch back. And the porosity test, the one I like the best is I like to snip a little piece about 1 inch in the back somewhere and then put it in a bowl of water. Usually I bring a color bowl of water out. This is a good visual for them because they will, if they see it, they believe it. A lot of times if you tell them, they want to have the service done so bad, so they don't believe you. They're just going to go somewhere else and have it done. And that's fine. Let them do that, because then your name is not going to be put out there that you broke all their hair off. So you want to let somebody else make that money, and then they'll suffer the consequences of them telling everybody that they messed their hair up. So you want to schedule conditioning treatments for them ever so often, whatever it takes. It may be 1 every week or 1 every 2 weeks, whatever you see fit. So at this point, they're relying on you to tell them what they need to do. And so you use your best judgment to decide what kind of treatments they need. And you also want to make sure that you're sending them with retail product home and something that is really going to moisturize their hair. So you need something that reconstructor that's going to go in and penetrate that and reconstruct the hair from the inside out. So you want to make sure that they have good retail products that they're going to be using at home. And normally if you're in a salon, you're going to have, either the salon is going to have a product line for that type of hair. Normally our salons are going to carry some different price ranges so we can fit every single person's budget that comes in the door. So let's say, for instance, Paul Mitchell is a very good line of products. They've got some good deep conditioners, but it is not as expensive as some of the other ones. So that might be a good choice for them. But you always want to recommend some very good products for them, and they'll ask you. And a lot of times people will ask me, they'll say, well, what do I need to get whenever I go to Walmart? Well, and I tell them, I'm honest with them, and I tell them, I'm like, look, I don't I don't use those type products. I use professional products, and this is why I use professional products, because they spent thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars to perfect these products and to put the money and the chemistry behind the products so that they really go in and infuse and condition the hair for the different hair types, whatever the hair type might be. And so I'm honest with them, and I tell them what I can recommend, what I use, and what works for me, and what's worked for some of my other clients, and I recommend products for them. So that's what I would do if I were you. Would recommend some definite. You need to recommend products for them. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about fillers. We got two different kind of fillers, and what the fillers do is they are going to equal out the porosity in the hair. That's what the fillers are there for in the hair. So you got two different types. You got conditioner fillers and color fillers. So the conditioner fillers, they're used to recondition damaged or overly porous hair to equalize out the porosity of the hair, so it accepts the color from the strand to strand and from the scalp to end. So it equals out the porosity, so it makes it more like a clean palette. You know, if you were an artist, you would have a blank canvas, and so that's what it makes it more like, a blank canvas. So it makes it equally accept the color throughout, is what it does. Also, you have color fillers. These also equal out the porosity, and they deposit color in one application. They provide more of a uniform contributing pigment, and as we know, from what we've learned in our class, is that whatever level they want to be, the underlying pigment has to be that shade in order for it to be true and deposit truly on there. And so there, a lot of times we'll use demi-permanent hair color. So like for the company that I use, Rusk, they have on their little color chart, they have on there exactly what you need to use to fill the hair with. So it's no guessing game for them. It'll tell you exactly, it gives you the color formulas on there and tells you exactly what you need to mix to make that to make the underlying pigment of that level. So you are able to to apply that product on there, and it comes out a true to color. So normally the way that works for color fillers is what we do is you mix up the formula on there, and we're going to use demi-permanent hair color on the hair, because it's just for deposit, and that's all we want to do, is we want to deposit the pigment back into the hair. So we mix up the formula to put on the missing primary colors in the hair. We're going to mix that formula on and put it on the hair and leave it on the hair for 10 or 15 minutes, depending on whatever your manufacturer's directions tell you to do for the color line that you're using. You're going to apply it on there, and then we're just going to take a towel and wipe that product off, the excess product off. So basically what we're using that for, so it stains that hair and puts that pigment that you're missing back into the hair. And so once you do that, and you take a towel and you take off that demi-permanent, then you mix up your color formula that you're going to put on the hair, and then put it on top of it and process it. So that acts as a filler, so it's going to fill that. And so a lot of times when the hair's, they bleach it out too much and get it too blonde, the hair gets transparent. And so the color really has nothing to hold on to in there, so the hair shaft gets hollow. So you got to put some pigment back into the hair so it will accept the color. A lot of people, it takes a lot more time to do that, to do it properly, and it costs a lot more money to do it properly, because you have to charge for your time and your knowledge to do that. And so if you have somebody that they don't want to spend the extra money, sure, you can put the color on top of it, but it's not going to be true to the pigment. Is not going to be, the underlying pigment is not going to be true to what the level needs to be to put it on there to hold on to the color molecules that you're putting into the hair. Of course they can do that. It's not going to last as long, and you just need to explain to them, yes, I can put the color on there, but it's going to fade out, and you're going to have to come back in probably 3 or 4 weeks, and we're going to have to do the service again. So you explain the difference in doing that and going ahead and using a color filler on the hair and put the underlying pigment on there, which they need for that level, and then putting their color on top of it, and it'll last longer. So demi-permanent color is what we're going to use for color fillers most of the time. And it's going to just provide a uniform pigment, you know, from scalp to ends, and make your color be even from scalp to ends. So if you're going, normally if you're going 3 levels darker, you always need to do a color filler on the hair. It's going to make the color last longer. It's going to be true to the shade that you want to put it on there. Okay, so there's 6 different things that the color fillers are going to do. Number 1, it's going to deposit color on the faded ends in the hair shaft. It's going to replace any kind of missing pigment that's left in the hair. It's going to prevent streaking and the dull appearance. So the color is going to be beautiful from scalp to end if you do that. Because if you don't do it and the hair is over processed and maybe they've overlapped it, it's going to be shallow, more shallow in some places than other, meaning the pigment is going to be lighter shades in some places or others, so it can make the color be completely off. It's going to prevent uneven color results. It's going to produce a more uniform, natural looking color, and also it produces uniform results on previously pre-lightened hair. And that's the thing. So a lot of times it's coming up, sometime we're in spring now and it's coming up summer, and a lot of people is going to want to be getting their hair lightened, so they'll do that for the summertime. And then whenever it gets fall, then they want to go dark again, because that's what we do as women. We want to be lighter in the summertime, and we want to go darker and richer, more vibrant colors in the fall and winter. So it's just, if they've done too much of that, you know, and they get it really, really light, let's say they went from a level 4 to a 10 or a 5 to a 10, you know, you're talking about 5 or 6 levels going up there. And so that's definitely more than 3. So you need to put that underlying pigment back in there. You need to put the contributing pigment back into the hair for the color. Okay. So next we'll talk a little bit about selecting the correct color fillers. So whenever you're doing color fillers, you really got to have all 3 of the primary colors in the hair for it to look natural. So it's all got to be present in there for you to get that really natural, even color that what you're wanting to deposit. So to correct unwanted tones, you're going to use either the primary or the secondary missing colors, depending on what it's missing. You're going to use a complementary color, which is going to be opposite of the color wheel that we did. So we got color wheels in our book, and also we did some of that at the beginning, making our own color wheel. So whatever's opposite of it. So if they got too much yellow in the hair, then you're going to go opposite the color wheel. So just look at your color wheel, and you want to put a violet based color on that to neutralize that out in the hair. So let's say if the hair is orange or red, if it's red, we're going to go right across and we're going to neutralize that out with green. Orange, you're going to neutralize out with blue. So depending on what they got too much of, you want to go completely opposite on the opposite side of where that is on the color wheel, and then use that base color to neutralize the colors out of the hair. So for the yellow, if you look at the primary colors, you know it's got yellow in it, so you're missing red and blue. So if you add red and blue together, it's going to make violet. So if you just look on there, you don't even have to think about it. If you've got a color wheel, you can just take that. I keep one in my cabinet at the salon, and I don't even have to think about it. You know, I know now what to do, but used to I had to look at it all the time to make sure that I was getting the correct complementary color that I needed to put into the hair so I can neutralize the colors out. So again, orange, if you have somebody that's orange blonde, so you know it's got the yellow and the red in it, because right, those two make orange. So you're missing blue, so you want to get a blue base color and put that on the hair, and it neutralizes it out, and it's going to make it beautiful from scalp to ends. The primary colors are always going to cancel out the secondary colors, and vice versa. So whichever you need, whatever's missing, you want to put it in there, okay? All right, so different hair color tips for different shades of hair. So first we'll talk about redheads. So for redheads, if they got a warm coppery red, you want to use a red-orange base color. So either you're going to use a red-orange or a red-gold. So gold, the thing about gold is it makes the hair more richer. It's great for redheads or people with gray hair because that gold is going to make the hair accept the color better with the gold into the hair. Fiery redheads, you're going to use red violet or true red. So that's going to be red. Usually it'll be a red by itself. If we're doing letters, we're going to use R. So it'll be red or red or red violet, okay? RB. So R, or RB is going to be your tones that you would want to put into the hair for fiery redheads, because you want to add that. If somebody wants a fiery redhead, they want something really rich. So if somebody comes and shows me a picture of something that is really got vibrant color and is red, I'm going to use a double pigment. So we know that the RR, the two R's, stand for red, so that's going to be double pigment. So if you got somebody that really wants that rich, vibrant color, you would want to use something that's got double pigment in the color, in the shade that you're going to put on. You're going to use demi color to refresh the ends, right? So whatever we use, because we know that whenever we're doing hair color and we've done somebody and we put a red color on their hair, or any shade as far as that goes, and they come in, we don't want to overprocess those ends and keep lifting those. So why would, if their hair is just faded out a little bit, why would we use a 20 volume developer whenever the developer 20 volume is going to lift 2 shades, when actually all you need to do is deposit on the hair? So that's why we want to use demi color for the refresh in the end. So whenever you're doing your formulas in our class, in our formula sheets, whenever we have faded ends, we always want to put demi permanent color, because you're stating the difference. It's understood without it that it's permanent hair color. So you always want to put, if you're doing a color formula, even on your notes at the salon, you're going to have a card for your client, and you want to make notes on there so you know exactly what you've done to her from time to time and what works best, because a lot of times they'll want to tweak it a little bit. They'll want more red, or they may, you know, last fall you put a real red. You remember that back when we did last fall? Well, I'm probably not going to remember that, but I can pull her color card and I can look at it and I can see exactly what I put on it, and then it'll refresh my memory. For gray hair, you want to add neutral or natural to the formula. So we know that since we've been formulating hair color formula, if they've got 40% gray, you're going to use 1/4 of an ounce of, or 1/4 apart, however you want to do it. We're going to just say ounces. So I'm going to use 1/4 of an ounce of natural. Let's say my lady is a level 6, okay? She's a level 6 and she's got 40% gray, and she wants to be a 6 red brown, okay? So I would put 1/4 of an ounce of 6 natural, 6N, plus 3/4 of an ounce of my target shade, which is going to be the red brown. So I would put 1/4 of an ounce of 6 N, and plus 3/4 of an ounce of 6 RB, red brown, and then I would use 10 volume developer for her, because we're going to say she's in a level 6. And so that's what we're going to do, and that's going to help cover that gray there at 40%. If she's 50% gray, we're going to use half of our natural shade. So if she was 50% gray, I would use 1/2 ounce of 6 natural, plus I would use 1/2 ounce of the 6R red brown, the RB, in her hair. And then I would use 20 volume developer, because she's 50% gray. And at 50% gray, we know that to cover gray completely, at 50%, you need to use 20 volume developer. Okay, so let's say that if she was 70% gray. So at 70% gray, we have to formulate 1 whole level darker. So we got to go down. So if she is a level 6 naturally, and she's 70% gray, and she wants to be the 6 red brown, which is going to be RB, because she wants to be that. So then my formula would be 1/2 of an ounce of 5 natural, right? Because I have to formulate 1 whole level darker because she's got so much white. If I put the 6 on it, it's going to be too light. It's going to look like a level 7, you know? So I would put 1/2 ounce of 5 in and 1/2 ounce of 5 RB plus 1 ounce of 20 volume developer, because it's 1-to-1. That's the standard mixing ratio, is 1-to-1. The standard mixing ratio is always 1-to-1. Different color companies will have different ratios, but if you learn the standard mixing ratio, which is 1-to-1, then you will be able to take anybody's color line that you want to work with, and you'll know if theirs is 1 to 1.5, like the one that we're using at the school. If it's 1 to 1.5, like the Bravana, you're going to know that it's going to be 1 ounce of color to 1 1/2 ounces of developer. So the standard mixing ratio is 1-to-1, and that's what we teach you, just so that you can take that information to a salon and use any color brand that you want to and be able to formulate hair color. Okay, so moving on, to brighten and refresh, you can use a soap cap, which if you're going to use a soap cap, it's going to be equal parts of shampoo and your color formula. So if a shampoo cap, so let's say we'll use this same lady, and I just wanted to do a shampoo cap on her instead of doing the demi-permanent hair color. So I would use my color formula that I did on her. We're going to use the 50% gray, okay? So I would use 1/2 ounce of 6N plus 1/2 ounce of 6 RB plus 1 ounce of developer, which is going to be 20 volume developer. Okay, so now I have a total amount of 2 ounces. It's my total color formula. So I would have to add 2 ounces of shampoo. So it's equal parts. Your total color formula, how much you got in it. So I've mixed up 2 whole ounces, and so then I would add 2 ounces of shampoo to that, and mix it up, and then apply it on her at the shampoo bowl. Normally you're not gonna mix up that much color unless you got somebody with really, really long hair, because when you add that shampoo, so once I add the shampoo, then I got 4 ounces altogether. So you don't need that much unless you got somebody with really, really long hair. So you would do that. So you could use a shampoo cap, and then on her, or if you didn't want to do that, you could mix up the demi hair color. Either one, but that's how you would do the shampoo cap on that. Okay, so tips for brunettes. You want to avoid the orangey brassy. So if you want to do that, which a lot of that hair is going to come up, those brunettes, you know, you got to get past that red. So you got that red, orange, yellow, orange, you got to get past that. So you want to use cool blue or green base colors for that, because that's going to neutralize that out. You don't want to lighten the hair over 2 levels of the natural color, because it pulls the underlying pigment out of the hair. So the more lift you get, the more of that underlying pigment you're going to pull out of the hair, and that's what's going to present itself at the end, okay? You want to add 1 ounce of the natural color to cover the gray, okay? These are your brunette tips, and these are on page, let's see what they're on. They are on page 707 in our book. And for the natural highlights, on brunettes, they should be a dark caramel color. So if they want natural looking highlights, if you want natural highlights, your client does, you want to keep it within 2 shades of their natural level. If you do that, then the hair color looks natural. So if you got somebody that comes in every 6 months and she does highlights, well, you don't want to give her, if she's a brunette, you don't want to give her really blonde hair, because it's going to look terrible in 2 or 3 months, and you know she's not coming back. So if you keep it within a couple of shades of her natural color, then it looks like the sun done it, so it's not as noticeable, and it blends in more whenever the hair grows out. It looks better on that dark shade of hair. Okay, tips for blondes. from brown to blonde, the underlying pigment is going to be warm tones, okay? So whenever you're lifting that hair up, you know it's got to go through all those different levels, and it's going to pull, brown hair is going to pull warm tones. I can't tell you how many people that comes in and says, I want my hair this medium brown or light brown, but I don't want any red in the hair. Well, we know, you know, because we've been studying that red is going to be one of the underlying pigments in the hair. So you have to choose the tones that'll neutralize those unwanted tones out of the hair. So you want to cover gray. To cover gray with blondes, you want to use a level 7 or darker because it's got more pigment in it, right? And that's going to cover the hair better. Double process is best for pale blonde results. So if you're doing any kind of double process, and those type people is going to be the ones that want that high lift Marilyn Monroe blonde color. You want to use high lift blondes on levels 5 or higher. If it's higher than that, then you need to go to the double process. So you're going to have to use lightener on those type people because it's going to have too much red. The underlying pigment is going to have too much red in it, and it's not going to lift it if you just use a high lift color. If the hair is too blonde, you can add low lights to it, to the hair. So a lot of times whenever people come in and they've worn their hair really blonde for a long time, and they want to go back dark. So they see these shades and they bring pictures in and they want to go dark. And if they've worn their hair a level 9 or 10 for a year or 2 years, you know, or even through the whole entire summer, a little bit of dark makes the hair look really, really dark to them because they're used to looking in the mirror and seeing that really blonde hair. So if somebody comes in with a level 9 or 10 and you put a level 6 dark streaks in their hair, they're probably going to trip out because they're going to say, oh my God, my hair is too dark. So what you'll find is if you'll use a level 7, which is a dark blonde in that, it'll give them enough depth in the hair and it'll break up that really blonde hair and give them some depth in it and dimension in it. And that hair is going to look darker than it really is up against that really blonde hair. So a level 7 is really good whenever you're if they're wanting low lights in their hair and they're trying to take it back down a little bit because maybe they've got it highlighted so many times that now it just seems like it's completely blonde all over, and you need to put some darker low lights into the hair. So level 7 is going to be really good for that, and I think that when you use that on your clients, you'll find that they will be more pleased with it and won't be quite as shocking to them going from really light to dark. Okay, so we got some common hair color solutions that we have in our book, and we'll go over those. So you want to use demi-permanent color. Demi-permanent color is really good to refresh faded ends, as we know. You can eliminate green cast out of the hair, whether it's chlorine or mineral buildup or either well water that they have. And a lot of times well water, it can be kind of a grainy cast, or it can be more of an orangey, rusty looking cast in the hair. And so you can neutralize that now with demi-permanent hair colors. We also have a lot of different color shampoos now that they've come out with, and conditioners, which the conditioners are really good because it's going to moisturize the hair and it's going to add that pigment into the hair, and so it can neutralize the different shades out of the hair too, which is really good to use. And also the demi-permanent hair color also will tone down the highlights. So let's say you get them a little bit too light, or you lifted a little bit too light, or maybe you lifted it and the hair color was uneven. And a lot of time that's what happens with artificial pigment, is the hair doesn't lift evenly from the whole entire strand. It'll be different levels. So a lot of times that you need to put a some type of toner on the hair to even out that strand and make it look more uniform. It makes the color look soft, because what lightener does to the hair, it can make it look really harsh. So it opens that cuticle up and it leaves it open. So you need to put something on there that's going to seal that cuticle down. And so the demi-permanent hair color does a great job on sealing that cuticle, because eventually if you don't put something on that's going to seal the cuticle, it's going to fill itself eventually with smoke, smog, pollution, and you know, it's going to try to seal itself. So if you will put a nice toner on the hair, demi-permanent hair color, it'll slick that cuticle right down, or close it right down, I should say. And let's say even if you get somebody and you do highlights on their hair and they love the shade it is, you can still use, they make plenty of clear glazes now that you can put on the hair, and it's going to close that cuticle down, which that's what you want to do in the hair. Okay, so if the color's too dark, you can remedy that issue by either adding a few highlights or using color remover into the hair. So a lot of times, it depends on what kind of shape their hair's in to begin with. So you're going to test their hair and see what kind of shape it's in. You're going to check the elasticity and see if the hair can handle that. And a lot of times what I'll recommend for people is to do highlights in the hair, because the highlights is going, if you do them more blended and more evenly woven, it's going to make the overall appearance of the whole hair look completely lighter, because you got light and dimension in there, so it just brightens up and makes the hair look a whole shade lighter. So that's always a good choice. You can also use color remover on the hair, but remember, when you use color remover, what it does is it oxidizes the color. It strips out it's only good for oxidative color molecules. Okay, there's different types now. Now they do have some, it's for artificial pigment that will remove that type dye too, but we'll say we're working with permanent hair color. So these type of removers, and the one that I like, that I use a lot, is by Rusk. It's called Eliminate. And you can use that product on the hair up to 3 times, and even put them up under the dryer in a bag on them for 20 minutes each time. But whenever you use color removers, what it does is it's going to bring it to the underlying pigment of whatever level it is in the hair. So if their hair is, we'll use 6. We'll say it's a level 6. So if their hair is a level 6, I don't know if you see this good here, just a little bit. But if it's a level 6, it's going to show you exactly what the underlying pigment of that hair is. So it's going to bring it to a gold orange. Well, let's say if she wants to be, let's say she wants to be a level 9. So look, you got to get all that orange out of the hair in order for it to be a level 9, because the underlying pigment of a level 9 is yellow. So you have to get all that orange out, because if you don't, it's never going to be a true level 9. And so what happens a lot of times is people see color filler, and so what they think is they can just put that on there and it's going to take all of it out, and so then they can go straight from that and put the level 9 blonde on it, and it's going to be perfectly blonde. And so when they do that, then they see that it is not, because it's got too much orange in it, and it's never going to be that right shade. So even when you use color remover on the hair, you still have to, if it's got too much orange in it, you still have to put lightener on it and get it past that. You got to get that orange out of the hair and able for it to be a level 9 in the hair. So that's the good thing about color removers, rather than just using straight bleach on the hair or lighteners, because it keeps the integrity of the hair. The products are so much better now than they used to be. Back, we'll say 20 years ago, the color removers, you put color remover on, everybody's hair was orange. It didn't matter what shade it was, everything was orange. And then you had to go from there and correct all that mess, which was a disaster. But now the products like the Eliminate, the Rusk Eliminate, what that does is it only takes out oxidative color molecules. So let's say if somebody's got highlighted hair, you've put some highlights in it with foils, and you need to take some of that out. Well, we'll say low light. So you put that in there, and you need to take that out. It's not gonna do anything to the hair that does not have color on it. So the natural hair, that's the virgin hair that's never been colored, it's not gonna change it. It's not gonna bring it to the underlying pigment. It's gonna look exactly the way it is whenever it's dry, whenever you put the product on it. It only removes oxidative color molecules in the hair. So the products are much, much better than they used to be in the color removers items that we have to choose from today. So it is a very good product. I always keep that in my station at work because you never know when you're going to need it. And the good thing about those products is, that one in particular, is that that remover, it comes in, I think it's 8-ounce size in it. So it comes in a box, and it'll have like a number 1 and 2. So when you put that product on there, you mix the 1 and 2 together, you put it on there, you put them up under the dryer for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, however long that you feel like you need to put them under there. But you can do it 3 times for 20 minutes. And then once you reach that time, a lot of times it can be deceiving whenever you look at the hair and you're taking the pigment out of the hair. And so what you have to do is, then you have to take them over, rinse it, and take them over to the sink, and then you'll put the number 3, which is 10 volume developer. That's all it is. And so what that's going to do is, it is going to activate any color molecules that's left in the hair. And so what happens is it'll go right back dark, just like it was before. So that's the good thing about the color remover. But the issue with the color removers too is, if you don't do that and take them back and put the 10 volume on it and see if any color, if you got it all out and the color molecules activate it, if you skip that step because you're like, oh, that looks good, yeah, it's where I want it to be, and then you put color on, the hair can go darker than it was in the beginning. So it can be, you have to be very careful and make sure that you're getting all the color removed out that you need to get removed out, because if you don't, then you activate those pigments and they can go a little bit darker. But it's a great tool to have. Always keep that in your cabinet at work, because you will definitely need that in your profession that you're in now. Okay, so next is knowing the hair color safety tips. They are on page 709 in your book. So you'll need to know these. You'll have to write some of these on your test. You'll have to list them. So you always want to perform a patch test 24 to 48 hours prior to any color that you're using. It's an aniline color, right? You don't want to apply if they have abrasions or metallic compounds is present in the hair, because it's going to cause a chemical reaction in the hair. You don't want to do that. You don't want to manipulate the scalp too much, so don't brush it. A lot of people take it out. My sister's the worst. She will have, she's got really curly hair, so she'll comb that out before I start to color or foil her hair, and she just breaks her hair off, because she's got so much product in it, because it is curly. But then if they start, really brushing their scalp, then it's going to manipulate the scalp, and what it does is it stimulates the pores in the scalp and opens them up. And so then when you put the color product on their hair, then their scalp starts burning. So you don't want to do that. Always follow your manufacturer's directions. You want to always use disinfected tools, because we do not want to transfer anything to anybody else. And there's a lot of things that you can transfer, a lot of skin diseases that you can transfer from person to person. And so that's why we always clean our tools after every single person. We don't want to use a brush on more than one person. You need to clean that brush in between. So like for my cabinet work, I have way too many brushes, but I have several. I have probably 4 extra large or 5 extra large and 4 or 5 large and all different sizes brushes, because if I'm really busy, I don't have time to stop and clean and disinfect that. So I put them in my to be disinfected container, and then at the end of the day, I can take it and I can clean all my stuff at one time. And so I always make sure that I have enough tools that I don't have to do that in between each client, that I can just do it at the end of the day. Always you want to drape and protect your client. I always have my clients put on a smock, have them take off their blouse and put on a smock, just because it protects their clothes, and you're not going to get them wet, because I tell them, I'm going to get you wet. You want to put on a smock, and if they say no, I'm like, I'm going to get you wet. And so if I don't get them wet, it's a miracle. But anyway, you always want to protect them. So even though that they're changing into a smock, I always put a cape on them, a chemical cape, if I'm doing chemicals on their hair. Always perform a strand test. Always, because you want to make sure that you are, especially if you're going from several different levels. You want to make sure that you know what you're working with, what kind of underlying pigment you're going to have, what kind of contributing pigment it's going to affect your color that you put on, put on the hair. Use an applicator bottle or a bowl. You want to use glass or plastic only, right? You can't use metal with our hair color. You don't want to use any kind of metal bowls. It's either glass or plastic. Don't mix color too early. What happens if you mix the color too early is it starts oxidizing. Okay, so let's say you mix your color and we'll use my sister again. She's got curly hair. It's going to take a good 10 minutes to comb all that stuff out. So for 10 minutes, my color has already started air oxidizing. So it's not as potent as it would be, and your results is not going to be as good as they would be if you waited. So that's why we comb our lady, get her sectioned off, and then we go mix our color, and then we can start applying it. As soon as we get back to our station, then we can start applying the color. Always wear gloves, because after years and years of not wearing gloves, then you're going to start having issues with your skin, because it's going to strip your skin of the moisture in it, and it's only going to get worse and worse over the years. So we have a lot of harsh chemicals, and so you always want to wear gloves. You don't want to get anything in the eyes. If you do, always rinse with cold water. You're going to have your MSDS sheets, your material safety data sheets, that's going to tell you exactly for whatever product that you're using. You as a hairstylist have the right to have every MSDS sheet, and it's the law. It's the state law in Georgia. You have to have a booklet with everything that you carry, so if something happens, you know what to do for that chemical. If it's in the eyes, if they ingest it somehow, or whatever the case may be, it's going to tell you exactly what to do for that product. Don't overlap. When you overlap, you create lines of demarcation in the hair, or well, it creates lines of demarcation in the hair, but it also weakens the hair every time you overlap it, so you're only damaging the hair. You want to use a mild shampoo. So anytime you're doing any kind of hair coloring, you want a shampoo that is specifically for color treated hair. Okay, you don't want to use just a regular old shampoo, because a lot of times a good basic shampoo, it may be too harsh for your color treated hair, depending on if it's high lift, double process, what you've done to it, how many times they've colored it and pulled it to the end. So you want to make sure that you're using a good shampoo. And you always want to wash your hands before and after every service, because we don't want to transmit anything to any of our clients at all, ever. We always want to keep it very clean, keep our salon clean, our station clean, keep everything put together so we do not spread disease. Okay, so that's the end of our lecture for this semester. That'll be it for us, and so we will have our last test. So technically we were supposed to have it this week, but since we were out last week, our test will be next Thursday. So our test, again, we moved it to not next Thursday. Next week you're gonna be on spring break, and then whenever we come back from spring break, which will be April the 6th through the 9th, you'll have your test that week. So this week is your lecture. Next week you'll be on spring break, and then we'll do our test. So when we come back, we'll have our test. It'll be online, and it'll be just like the format that we always have in our class. And your test will be open from 11:30 until 1 o'clock. So it is a time test, so it's going to be exactly like as if you come into the classroom and you took your test. It will be it'll be a time test. So if you're late, or you happen not to log on at 11:30 for the class time, then whatever time is remaining, that's all you're going to have. So if you come in late, let's say if you come in at 12 o'clock, you've missed 30 minutes of the test, and so you only get the remainder of the time to finish the test. It'll be the same online. It will be a time test online. Okay, so you if you have any questions for me, well, let me tell you about your worksheet. So you got your worksheet that's due. All work is due according to the GTC online classes, and since we have, which yours is online anyway, so you have a partial online, but now that we're fully online, the assignments have to be in by 5 o'clock, which is, I know that whenever I first did the video, it said 11:30. That is incorrect. They have to be in by 5 o'clock because you're in class on Thursdays. Technically, you're in class from 11:30 to 3:35. And so your work has to be turned in at 5 o'clock. So make sure that your worksheets are turned in at 5 o'clock. And so also coming up next, we will have another video and we'll do the formulation worksheet together. So I'll do a little flip chart on that. I uploaded that worksheet for you guys to print out, and this just so you have the correct answers. And I can kind of go over that for you. So if you have any questions whatsoever, all you have to do during our class period time is go to the content and click on Ask the Instructor, create a thread, and I will answer your questions for you. So I'm going to make myself available for you during our class period, which is going to be 11:35 until 11:30 until 3:35. I'm going to be available for you. If it is before or after that time, just email me and I will respond accordingly. If you do it during my other classes, it won't be a quick response because I'll be with I'll be in session with other students, so I won't answer you as promptly. But during our class time, if you have a question, all you gotta do is create a thread. I'm gonna be watching my computer to see if anybody's got questions, and I'll answer them pretty promptly. So again, your assignments that are due, normally yours are due at 11:30 anyway, so you guys are getting a lot more time, but just know that your assignments are due at 5 o'clock p.m. So you're getting a little bit more time than what you normally would get anyway, so it's been good for you. And also you have, that's really the only assignment that you have due is that worksheet, looks like. And then we will do the formulation worksheet. We'll do that on our next video, and that one will be available in our class time too. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. If I can help you in any way, I'll be happy to. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day.